if I have to say this once, I'll say it again. I'm not against homeschooling, but I do have friends that have kids that parents homeschool their kids. Probably you probably get the picture here. Good evening and welcome to Give Me a Break. I'm Jonathan Carmody. In the state of Florida, homeschooling is on the rise as every single family in the state of Florida leaves public school. Florida public schools are experiencing a steep drop in enrollment in Hillsborough County, alone sending 7,000 students last year. A major driver of that decline is the surge of homeschooling. You know why parents homeschool their kids? It's because, of all the scandals that are going on the news, the sex scandals, the school shootings are going on. But for two moms you're about to meet, they have a really good reason for having their kids being homeschooled. Take a look.
Up, all the way across.
This ballet studio
Don't go fast.
now doubles as a classroom for these homeschooled girls.
Very beautiful school.
As homeschooling becomes more popular in Florida, the studio owner saw a need.
The homeschool is so popular in Florida that I thought, all right, let's start it, and it's starting to take off.
Changement.
He teaches dance alongside allowing students to do other studies at the studio. 155,000 kids were homeschooled statewide last year, according to the Department of Education, a 46% increase compared to 5 years ago. I spoke with two mothers here about why they said no to traditional public schooling. For one, it's flexibility.
My daughter's homeschooled because of the freedom and the flexibility to be outside of the public school system. It gives us the ability to choose what we want to specialize in as far as a learning track. She happens to be a dancer, so it opens up a world of opportunities.
For another, it's stability.
We had to make a transition out at the end of last year. She was just getting too stressed out. The tests were confusing, and it's making her feel inadequate. So I said, I can't have her going to school with anxiety and stomach aches and teachers saying she has headaches because these tests are just ridiculous.
They both tell me it's going great. They are enrolled in online studies with lesson plans.
Or it could be a weekly breakdown, this is what you're going to do each day. She does the worksheets, she listens to videos, and then at the end of the week, it's basically she takes an exam.
And it allows time for this, their passion with their friends.
I like to ask what socialization is actually happening inside of public schools. They go inside of a classroom, they're told to sit down. So just from this atmosphere, you can see that there's interaction. These children are speaking to each other.
But the Hillsborough Teachers Association says public schools are crucial.
A public education is much more nuanced than that. It's beyond just, maybe the lesson. It's really the interactions and the way kids work together and learn how to collaborate and learn from each other, learn from people that you like, learn from people that you don't. I think that's part of life, and I think that that's a life lesson that they get in our public schools.
But for these families, it's a safe space.
All in all, it's about your child learning and growing. And if you can do that with your child, that's just a great aspect of it.
It becomes fun, and learning becomes fun, and the hands-on learning is how we learn. And physically, they're not just sitting around at a desk, for 7 hours a day.
Out of the classroom,
Good girls, relax.
Evan Moon, Fox 13 News.
And we all heard the saying that, every parent wants what's best for their kids. That's the saying we've all heard. But what happens when the kid wants what's best for himself, It's not about what the child wants. It's about what's best for the parents, It's like, if you want to homeschool your child, go right ahead. There's no need for, going against public schooling. I mean, if you got a good reason, flexibility, all this and that, then that's a good reason. The only thing I will say, though, is, another thing I will say about this is that when you decide to homeschool your kids, it's like online school. Online school, you have to pay for it. I mean, homeschool, you gotta hire a tutor, you gotta pay for everything. You gotta hire the tutor, you gotta pay the tutor, all that stuff. And like, people complain like, oh, I go to school for 6.5 to 7 hours, I have baseball 2-3 hours, and I want to go do this. I mean, you have to be homeschooled, so you have to pay for it. When parents, you out there, you get free education from our tax dollars. Our tax dollars pay for free education. You pay for homeschooling. When we get free education from y'all pay for homeschooling. When we get free education from our tax dollars. Your teachers, the kids' teachers love them, and they want to see them back in a public school. But no, you want to create all this nonsense like, oh, flexibility. You sit in a desk all day. They have different classes. It's really not that hard to just give it another shot, give it another try. There's always second chances. There's always second chances. Look at it, give from another perspective, and you'll thank me later. That's the key here. Alright. We talked about Kathleen Willie. Then we focused on Juanita Broderick and Susan McGoogle. That's 3. Next, it's Paula Jones and Linda Tripp. The other layers to the Bill Clinton cake. Linda Tripp and Paula Jones, all leading up to Monica Lewinsky. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Sexual harassment may not be a taboo unless you're the president of the United States. If you were there during these times, you might have been friends with all the witnesses, with all three witnesses, Susan McDougal, Kathleen Willie, Juanita Broderick, and Paula Jones. Four of the accused women who say Bill Clinton sexually assaulted / harassed them. Now, throughout these past days, we focused in on these scandals. Like Kathleen Willie, how she said the president touched her inappropriately. Juanita Broderick, who says they met at a hotel and he sexually assaulted her. Susan McDougal was all about real estate and the money and an affair. Now, the other woman which you're about to meet tonight, her name is Paula Jones. Now, you may not be familiar with Paula Jones. If you're familiar with the story, then you may want to buckle up here, because Paula Jones may be a familiar name to a lot of people when they watch the news. But in this interview from 1994, you'll be the judge. We're not retrying the case. We're stating facts and common sense. Here's Sam Donaldson.
Ms. Jones, a lot of people think that you're just trying to get the president.
No, I'm not. I haven't got a suit filed against the president. It's against Bill Clinton. Just because he's president.
He is the president.
That's right, but the president is not, I don't feel, over the law. And he needs to tell the truth. And he needs to pay for what he's done.
Paula Corbin Jones, age 27, now married, claims that in 1991, when she was single and working for the state of Arkansas, then Governor Bill Clinton sexually harassed her in a vulgar manner. Because she's now filed a public civil suit against the president, she's become the hero, some would charge pawn, of many of Mr. Clinton's longtime political opponents. White House aides have called her a liar and pathetic. Robert Bennett, Mr. Clinton's private lawyer, put it this way.
The president adamantly denies the vicious and mean-spirited allegations in this complaint. Quite simply, the incident did not occur.
On the same day, President Clinton made his one and only public comment about the charges.
Bob Bennett spoke for me, and I'm going back to work. I'm not going to dignify this by commenting on it.
Paula Jones' story really begins in the little Arkansas town of Lonoke, population 4,128, some 30 miles east of Little Rock. Jones is the youngest of 3 sisters. Her mother was a housewife, her father a textile worker and part-time Nazarene preacher.
Did you think of yourself as poor?
We had our hard times, yes we did.
Once out on her own, Jones held a series of dead-end jobs, but finally went to work in Little Rock for the Arkansas Industrial Development Commission, a state agency. And that's where she was working when on May 8, 1991, she claims Bill Clinton sexually harassed her. The scene was the Excelsior Hotel, where an industrial conference was being held. She and a co-worker were holding down the registration desk on the second floor. But she says that afternoon, about 2:30, Mr. Clinton's bodyguard, State Trooper Danny Ferguson, spoke to her.
Trooper Ferguson approached me and handed me a little slip of paper. And he told me that he used the word Bill would like to meet with you up in this room number. And my response was, well, why does he want to see me? And Mr. Ferguson said, it's okay, we do this all the time.
What did you take that to mean?
I don't know. I was very excited the governor wanted to see me. I was. Who wouldn't be? And I thought, well, and when me and my friend had talked about it, we thought, well, we might could get a job.
Looking back, wasn't that a little naive?
Well, yes. That's the only reason why I would think that he would want me up there. Why? I mean, you know, the governor is asking you to come up to a room, and I did not know him or any of his past before that day.
Jones says Trooper Ferguson escorted her up in the elevator to the 11th floor, she thinks, and pointed to a room. The door was slightly ajar. She says Governor Clinton, alone and in shirt sleeves, showed her in. At first, she says, they made small talk. Then, she says, the governor made his move.
He was leaning up against the back of a wingback chair, and I was standing a little ways off from him. And we were talking. Well, he leaned up, and well, he tried to pull me over, and he put his hand up my leg. I mean, he jumped. You know, it was just real quick, and he tried to kiss on my neck. And he told me how he liked the way my curves were, and he liked the way my hair went down to the middle of my back. And then, I said, you know, don't do this, you know. I rejected it.
At that point, Ms. Jones, a lot of people wonder why you didn't just run out of the room. Leave.
I was scared. I knew the state trooper was sitting outside, or I'm pretty sure he was sitting out there. And I was just very scared. He told me he knew my boss. This was the governor.
Jones claims that Mr. Clinton then exposed himself to her and explicitly requested she perform a sex act.
I was just shocked. I jumped up and I said, no, I'm not this kind of girl. I'm not that kind of girl. And he said, well, I don't want to make you do something you don't want to do.
What was his demeanor like?
Well, his face was very red. I remember it was beaten red, and you could tell it. I don't know if he was embarrassed that I refused him or what, but he was just red as he could be.
Jones said Mr. Clinton told her to have her boss call him if she got in trouble for leaving her post downstairs. And then...
the last thing he said to me was, you're a smart girl, let's keep it between ourselves. And I left out the door.
Jones says she went downstairs and, distraught, immediately told her co-worker Pamela Blackford what happened. As the day progressed, she says she told her sister Charlotte Brown and another friend, Deborah Valentine.
Did any of the people you told advise you to file a complaint?
Debbie told me I need to report it to authorities. And I was scared. I'd lose my job.
Jones says in the months ahead, she ran into Trooper Ferguson again, and he said the governor wanted her phone number, which she says she didn't provide. Jones married her boyfriend, Steve Jones, had a son, and moved to California. And that is how things might have ended, had it not been for the now famous article in the American Spectator magazine last January, in which it was implied that a woman identified only as Paula engaged in a consensual sexual liaison with the governor that day at the Excelsior Hotel. And Paula Jones saw herself as held up falsely to public scorn.
I had told my family and friends and my fiance at the time the story that did happen. And when that came out, it made me look like a willing participant. I mean, that jeopardized the relationship with all of those people. I felt that they would think that maybe I was lying and that I did have a sexual relationship or something with Mr. Clinton.
Jones went public and told her story at a news conference held during a conservative political action convention in Washington. She was surrounded by arch enemies of Bill Clinton, including Cliff Jackson, the same Little Rock lawyer who back in 1992 propelled the Clinton draft issue into the spotlight.
But when you came forward, you did so surrounded by the president's political enemies. Did it occur to you that people would suspect your motives?
Those are the only people that are coming to my defense. There's not any Democrats that are wanting to support me. I was just wanting to tell my story, and I'm thankful that the conservatives let me use their podium to tell it on.
But do you think these people care about you, or are they just using you to get Bill Clinton?
I don't know, but I'm not in with them.
But you are in with them. You appeared with them.
But I was just there. I wasn't a conservative. I didn't even know what a conservative was.
Who did you vote for in the last election?
Mr. Bush. That was my first time I ever voted, and I registered to vote just so I could vote against Bill Clinton.
Jones' lawyer Daniel Traylor tried to reach an out-of-court settlement with the president's attorneys. Among other things, he asked for money. But no settlement was reached. And last month, on May 6th, Paula Jones filed a lawsuit against President Bill Clinton and Trooper Danny Ferguson, claiming they had violated her civil rights, had intentionally caused her distress, and had defamed and were continuing to defame her.
The reason I filed the complaint is because I asked for an apology, and I didn't get an apology. And instead he called me pathetic and a liar. And that I felt that to get my reputation back and to do what's right and to get my good name back, I had to file a suit against him.
Trooper Ferguson, in a response filed last Friday with the court, admitted riding up the elevator with Jones and pointing to a room. But he said Jones was the one who was interested in the governor, rather than the other way around.
He says, first of all, you said to him that afternoon that you thought the governor was good-looking and had sexy hair. Did you say that?
Not at all. I did not even speak to Mr. Ferguson about Mr. Clinton before he come and approached me and give me the note.
Well,
not
he denies giving you that note.
Well, he gave the note to me. I wish I had it still.
He denies saying the governor wanted to see you.
Well, you know, I know the truth, and Mr. Ferguson knows the truth.
And it turns out there is a third person who may know what was said. Pamela Blackard, the co-worker with Jones at the registration desk, in a telephone interview with Prime Time, supports Jones' version.
Danny Ferguson handed her a piece of paper, and it had a number on it. He said that the governor would like to see you up in this room. And she said, well, what does he want? And he said, oh, he'd just like to meet you, and it's just routine. This happens all the time.
Trooper Ferguson says that you came downstairs after about 20 or 30 minutes, and you asked him whether Governor Clinton had a girlfriend, and he said no, and you said that you were willing to be the governor's girlfriend.
Isn't that ridiculous? I mean, you would think if it went very well in the room, why didn't I tell Mr. Clinton I wanted to be his girlfriend myself? Why would I wait to go and hunt a state trooper down to tell him that I wanted to be his girlfriend? That did not happen.
But it is not just Ferguson who raises questions about Jones. Jones' own sister, whom she talked to that afternoon, believes her story, but not her motives.
You're aware that your sister, Charlotte Brown, said that you were amused and said to her that you smelt money, whichever way it went.
I don't know why Charlotte is saying those things, and it does hurt me deeply. It really does. She's my sister, and I still love her. But I know that my sister Charlotte supported me 100%.
But she says that from the very beginning, you were really in it for the money.
I've never spoke to her or anyone that I wanted the money. Never.
Miss Jones, as you know, her husband, Mark Brown, has painted you to the news media as a loose woman.
It's wrong. I mean, I am not that type of person, and I never was, and I never will be.
In her court suit, in an effort to show that she suffered retaliation for refusing the governor's advances, Jones says that after the incident, she was treated in a hostile and rude manner at work, shifted to a dead-end job, and, unlike others, received no merit raises. It turns out that isn't quite true.
You're aware that in the complaint filed with the court, you say that you got no merit raises. But you did get one, according to a document that we have at ABC News.
Well, they're still checking in on those, the record, and whatever the record shows. I mean, that's what will be.
If you got a merit raise, wouldn't that suggest that they weren't retaliating against you?
Well, I guess I just feel that way because even a real close coworker, she had gotten several when I wasn't, maybe to my one.
Ms. Jones, would you be willing to take a lie detector test, a polygraph examination?
Yes, I have taken one.
Jones' lawyers arranged for a polygraph examination, which they say she passed. Now, she wants the president to take a polygraph test.
Why shouldn't he if he's telling the truth? He should be more than willing to take one if he's telling the truth. And Mr. Ferguson too.
But wouldn't that turn it into a circus?
Maybe.
I mean, the President of the United States we're talking about.
Well, that's right. But
You
just
say
because
that
he's the president doesn't mean that he can't take a lie detector test. What harm is that going to do?
What do you want from Bill Clinton?
A public apology. That's all I've asked for in the first place, was an apology.
We've asked for $700,000 in cash money.
Well, that's, and if there's any money whatsoever left over after the legal expenses are paid, that will go to a charity.
What about radio and television appearances, a book contract, lecture fees?
I have not been offered anything of that nature at all.
If you are offered money for that, would you give that to charity also?
Yes, but that's not what this is all about, is the money. I'm not in it for the money.
Is it too late to settle?
Well, if he was to make a public apology and it be what I want, for him to let people know that I did not do anything in the room that was sexual of any nature.
Well, what if he agreed to that but did not have to agree with you that he had made some untoward overture?
I would have to think about that. Whether or not I would, drop a lawsuit because of that, I would have to think about it.
So the president may have to answer Jones' charges in court, and many people believe that's the way it should be. But others argue, and there is at least one court case supporting them, that civil suits against the sitting president ought to be postponed until he leaves office, on the grounds his time is too valuable to the whole country. We asked Ms. Jones what she thinks about that.
Isn't it true that your suit damages the president's credibility and may harm the United States interests if he can't carry out the burden of his office in foreign affairs, in health care? Does it bother you that it may hurt the whole country?
No, he's the one who did this to himself. I'm not doing it to Mr. Clinton.
But what about the country? Are you more important than the country?
No.
How do you think this is going to play out in the future? In your life, in the life of your son?
I just hope my son will know that I did this for him and for my reputation, for my husband, for my family, to let people know that what the real truth was and what did really happen in that room on May 8th of 1991.
The president's lawyer is expected to argue that this case should be dismissed, or at the very least postponed until Mr. Clinton leaves office. But if those motions fail, then Paula Jones will get her day in court, along with the president, and the country will be watching.
So now you know. Now we dealt with the fourth woman. Coming up next, it's Linda Tripp. Nancy Collins with Linda Tripp. Stay with us. So, we dealt with Kathleen Willey, Juanita Broderick, Susan McGoogle, Paula Jones. Now we're talking about Linda Tripp. Linda Tripp may be familiar to you. Have you ever seen these Whitewater investigations? And with Ken Starr. But Linda Tripp, Tripp could be the ultimate weapon here to that scandal. When Bill Clinton was leaving office, all the information had changed. So the question is, what did she have to say that led to Bill Clinton leaving the office? For the very first time ever since then, you'll get to hear her side of the story. Here's Nancy Collins.
This is Linda Tripp today. But this is probably not how you remember her.
This is such important information.
The country's most infamous secretary has shed more than 30 pounds and has a brand new look, courtesy of cosmetic surgery and paid for by a supporter.
I didn't realize how ugly I was till I saw the pictures after this story hit. I was horrified as well as the rest of the nation, really.
I understand that there's been a great deal of speculation about just who I am and how I got here. Well, the answer is simple. I'm you. I'm just like you.
Do you think your physical appearance affected the way the public viewed you?
Yes. It was easier for the country to accept evil, manipulative, betray, villainous, ominous, odious, all those horrible words, if the photos matched the description.
But getting the face you wanted took not one, but 2 surgeries.
Well, the first one was a complete disaster. Severe complications, pain. In any event, months later, I found a remarkable doctor and went through several hours of corrective surgery, not new surgery so much as literally corrective.
Has it given you more confidence?
No, I don't think. I think once your confidence is eroded or undermined, I don't know that plastic surgery is a way to give it back.
Today, Linda Tripp lives alone in a rented cottage on this Virginia horse farm, where she spends time with her 2 children, now out on their own. Though it's been 2 years since Tripp's secret tapes threw the country into pandemonium, she knows many will forever see her as a modern-day Judas. Despite that, Tripp is still outspoken about all she saw inside the Clinton White House. Do you think that Monica Lewinsky was the president's only dalliance while he was in the White House?
No. This was not a man who discriminated in any big way. He was an equal opportunity philanderer.
Tripp may have an axe to grind when it comes to the president. The right wing has certainly embraced her, though she says she's a registered independent. Linda Tripp first arrived in the White House in 1990 as a career secretary in the Bush administration.
You know how children sometimes grow up and want to be Miss America, or that clearly wasn't a choice, but just have a dream. To me, the White House was the dream. I would have cleaned toilets with my tongue to work in the White House.
When the Clintons arrived, Tripp was asked to stay on in the West Wing, where she worked directly with the president and his senior staff. Initially, she found the president appealing, was happy to be part of his team.
He was charismatic, highly energetic, he was warm. He has an aura of uniqueness that I've not met in anyone else.
What about the first time you met Hillary Clinton?
I remember thinking how completely impressive she was. So completely polished in her presentation. She's the consummate politician.
What was the Clintons' relationship like?
I barely saw them being civil. I saw almost a mother figure to his recalcitrant sort of schoolboy youngster. Who was always sort of looking over his shoulder to make sure he hadn't misbehaved or hadn't been caught.
Do you think the president was a little afraid of Hillary?
I think he wanted to avoid conflict.
But it wasn't just the Clintons' relationship that bothered Tripp. It was witnessing, she says, an array of scandals that began happening almost immediately. It was 1993, the year of the Whitewater investigation, Travelgate, not to mention Vince Foster's suicide and Kathleen Willie's encounter with the president that she would later call sexual harassment. Some people see you as a scandalmonger.
Remember that I didn't create the scandals. I kept promoting me. And they kept giving me increasingly sensitive positions. So I was essentially where every scandal was born.
Well, you know, one of the raps on you, what your critics say that you... Gossip. Busybody.
Yeah. They had to neutralize me, didn't they? I mean, because Monica Lewinsky was the least of their concerns.
Do you think that Hillary knew about Monica all along?
There's not a thing that Mrs. Clinton misses in the White House. I don't think that she knew every time that Monica was in the study on her knees, no. But there came a point in time when she was made aware, and then Monica was moved.
Moved to the Pentagon, where Linda Tripp had been transferred in 1994. Lewinsky was the confidential assistant to Linda's boss.
I had very little to do with her. She was a pest. She'd show up at my desk. She'd want a picture of Clinton. I knew she was a groupie, and I knew she was someone's pet rock. You don't get that kind of job without being someone's pet rock at 22.
But you never thought the president?
No. He generally doesn't go for them that young.
Describe Monica Lewinsky for me.
Oh, she's a bright girl. I think she's a beautiful girl. She has a lot to offer. I don't hate her in any way. I am so disappointed at her choices all along.
Tell me.
This is the 80 bomb, bro. We gotta be real 10 toes down on this.
I've done a lot of great things on the football field, but Nike.
About the day she told you about her affair with the president.
She essentially accosted me coming into the Pentagon and pulled me into the cafeteria and blurted it out. She said, I've been involved in an affair for a long time. I had to leave the White House until after the election. It was too dangerous for me to stay. She essentially started walking through everything that had ever happened, and she had a photographic memory.
I mean, this is pretty fascinating stuff.
Oh, I was fascinated, completely fascinated, and horrified at the same time. I was more than happy to listen. I'm 50 years old and do not know a female in all my years of any age that would thong the President of the United States, not one. The notion that the President of the United States would dally in any way with this child who had a hard time keeping on an even keel on a good day was beyond comprehension, made no sense.
Over time, Tripp says, she became increasingly concerned about Monica's mental health as she watched her romantic obsession spin out of control. Give me an idea of her fanaticism when it came to calling you
20, 30 times, and that would be outside of the work hours. She would have 10, 15 calls to Betty Curry a day.
The president's secretary.
Right, that were increasingly hysterical.
And what would she say to Betty Curry 15 times a day? What
obscenities that he wasn't responding fast enough to suit Monica. Whether it was to get her back to the White House, to help her find a job, to see her, to exchange a gift, for whatever the silly reason was.
But it wasn't just Monica she was worried about, it was herself as well. The president, she says, through Monica, was urging her to lie under oath in the Paula Jones sexual harassment case. Tripp got scared, fearing at the very least she'd be fired.
Fear. It was escalating to the point of no return. The threats were becoming, they were nonstop.
Well, who was threatening them?
Monica was carrying threats from the president. He says, you know, you have to be a team player. You're a political appointee. You must be a team player.
All of which led her to a fateful decision that would, of course, transform their lives. Why did you take Monica Lewinsky?
I found myself in the personal crosshairs of the President of the United States. Remember, I was going into an under oath situation, as was he, as was Monica. They were both going to lie. They said, essentially, I'm going to lie, he's going to lie, you are going to be the one convicted for perjury, not us.
Did her mother know about this relationship with President Clinton?
Yes.
How much?
Everything. And her aunt as well. I was appalled at what was going on, and they encouraged it. The inaugural ball gown that her mom bought for her was one of the saddest points for me. She looked like Snow White. She looked so beautiful in this strapless red, tight-fitting bodice gown with a long, hooped skirt. And then Monica stood at the Kennedy Center from the time they opened the doors till well after he left, just waiting.
For him?
Yeah. It was so sad because she was a beautiful young girl and she should have had a life.
Did he pay attention to her when he arrived?
No.
He didn't?
No.
You're tearing up.
Oh no, I just think it was pathetic. The whole thing was pathetic.
On their relationship?
Can we stop for a minute?
No, I think this is fine because, you know, it's okay, Linda. It was pathetic, but, you know, your critics claim that you egged her on in this.
I spent a year telling her this was a very sick situation. She deserved more than this.
But did she deserve to have her telephone conversations with Tripp taped? A woman she viewed as friend and confidant? Tripp claims today that Monica was never a real friend.
And it's been depicted in the media as though we were bosom buddies.
The first 6 months you knew Monica, you were just friends, or you were colleagues?
No. She worked for my boss. This was a young, unstable, volatile, and potentially dangerous to me young lady.
Why was she dangerous to you?
Well, she was so completely well connected. There was no way on earth that we were going to offend Monica Lewinsky. I didn't want a young girl as a buddy, but something kicked in with Monica. She was so completely needy.
You realize that saying you're not Monica's friend is one of the hardest things for the public to buy.
Because look, the White House, they're the masters of the universe. They made you believe what they wanted you to believe.
But it was more than White House spin. The two women were in constant contact, often spending hours on the phone. You not only taped Monica, you sort of manipulated the conversation so she would repeat stories she had told you when you weren't taping.
Right.
Well, how do you defend that?
I don't. I had to recreate events that had transpired already in order to document what had happened.
You don't think you betrayed
No,
Monica Lewinsky?
absolutely not.
But by exposing her relationship with the president, she would be hurt more.
No, you're wrong.
Why?
You'd have to know Monica. She had already told 14 people about this affair, including the DC cab drivers that took her back and forth. Privacy was not an issue.
Order on those tapes.
Once Tripp turned over the tapes to Kenneth Starr and the Office of the Independent Counsel, the story of the president's affair erupted. Tripp, forced into a government safe house for protection, was cast as a national villain.
I enjoyed talking to you last night about your numerous sexual trysts with President Bill Clinton.
Oh, I'm really sorry about that. I really talked your ear off, huh? All those names and dates, blah, blah, blah. It's so boring.
Well, actually, I was hoping we could talk about all that stuff again, but slowly and a little bit louder.
It was the John Goodman thing. I didn't like him too much.
See that? I laughed at that, and so did Mom, but Jay Leno just, ooh, he really got me mad.
He did, because he went just
went a bit too far.
He picked on her looks too much?
Yes, a little too much.
Ryan and Allison Tripp knew about the president's affair long before the public, living through the ordeal with their mother. They are speaking out together in support of her for the first time. What do you think has been the toughest part of this whole saga for you, Allison?
Whew, for me, seeing my mom made out to be an absolutely crazed villain. Like, she's not that way at all. She's the warmest person you'll ever meet. The most dignified person.
It takes a strong person to stand by your convictions that much. I mean, I don't honestly believe I could have been able to go through that. I don't think I'm that strong inside, and that's why I will stand by her.
Do you remember the day that Monica Lewinsky first called? The 27-year-old former intern is rarely on her mind these days, Tripp says. She still commutes daily to a job at the Department of Defense, where she collects a salary but says she is given little to do.
So the punishment was swift and sure, but they do pay me, so I'm grateful for that. I haven't made a nickel, a penny, any money at all on this.
Though she owes $1 million in legal bills, Tripp insists she has no regrets and would do it all again for two reasons, Allison and Ryan. Did they ever say to you, why did you do this?
Oh, yeah. I said, you knew what was going on. Had I testified falsely under oath, anything I said to you for the rest of my life would have really meant nothing. Monica made her choices. She has had to live with those consequences as I have had to live with mine. I would do it again, certainly.
Nancy Collins joins us. Nancy, a lot of people may not realize that Linda Tripp, out of this whole scandal, is the only one who was indicted, and she was indicted for wiretapping Monica Lewinsky, but those charges have been dropped. So are her legal problems all over?
No, she's currently suing the Department of Defense and the White House for leaking information from her personnel file to the press in order to discredit her.
She is suing the Department of Defense, where she still continues to work.
She is suing her employer, Barbara, and there's one thing you can say about Linda Tripp is that she is gutsy.
Gutsy she is. Some people might call it chutzpah, but gutsy she is. Thank you for bringing us this interview, Nancy. One more point. 2020 asked Monica Lewinsky and her mother, Marsha Lewis, for a comment. Marsha Lewis says that she never discusses her daughter publicly. And Monica, she says, can't comment because she remains under a gag order.
She remains under a gag order. Now that Linda Tripp interview was after that Monica Lewinsky interview. Now you might be asking me why did you go to Monica Lewinsky first? After the Paula Jones. Well, you have to remember, that interview's 2 hours. We had to do like a part 2. So now we dealt with 5 people. We dealt with Kathleen Willey, Juanita Broderick, Susan McDougal, Paula Jones, and Linda Tripp. Those 5 people, the 5 layers of that cake. So that completes the whole cake. But there's the icing on top of that cake. And you know who that icing is? Raise your hand if you know. Yes, Alyssa Lamb. That's right. It's Monica Lewinsky. You haven't paid attention. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of all y'all for paying attention. If you listen to these if you watch this broadcast, if you're a big fan of this broadcast, you know we deal with stories that touch the heart. And not only the stories that touch our heart, the stories that really make us say, what the hell is going on? We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Time for our new series we're calling our Potting Shop. We look at some herogram. Now for a new segment we're calling Herograms. Meaning the heroes that do their best to make sure they're doing the things they're supposed to be doing safely. In tonight's herogram, this security guard from Alice is on a mission to make sure to keep all students safe. And for 2 decades, this security guard which you're about to meet, he says he's doing it. Here's Melissa Trevino with our herogram.
Would run through your mind if there were no security guards?
I would feel really scared coming to school because security guards are what keep us safe, and without them, we wouldn't be safe anymore.
June Garza is a 6th grader at William Adams Middle School. She's used to seeing Chief Security Guard Joe Nino walking the halls and checking the doors. Nino has been with the district for 24 years. As an Alice graduate himself, he tells me this is all he ever wanted to do.
I made security like my life. I want to protect people, serve people.
You'll often see him watching cameras and keeping in constant contact with other security guards throughout the day, and always puts the school first.
I'm trying to keep this kid safe. Staff, that's what every morning I think about kids safe and be proactive.
Nino is one of many security guards at the district being celebrated on National Security Guard Week.
He's very good at what he does. He's very respectful. Treats everyone great.
Students here tell me Nino is a big part of their lives. He's watched their parents grow up and now look over them.
Nino tells me he'll continue protecting students and staff for as long as they'll have him. In Alice, I'm Melissa Trevino, your neighborhood news reporter, Press 6 News.
And that's why we call him our herogram, because he does things. He helps out and he protects our kids. So let's get 3 cheers to our herogram. You might have heard about the assassination of now moving on. You might have heard the assassination of Charlie Kirk, but now you're hearing now you're gonna be hearing from teachers and the American Federation for Corpus Christi, Nancy Vera, saying some things all about what the teachers are saying and why the state is cracking down on those teachers who say shit about Charlie Kirk.
Fire, Amanaconejo in Corpus Christi.
Take a look.
Under fire, Amanaconejo in Corpus Christi, asking whether free speech is clashing into professional conduct when it comes into TEA, looking into educators' comments about Charlie Kirk's assassination. Following the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, Social media has been an outlet of anger, frustration, and sadness, but some of those posts are coming from educators, raising concerns. According to the Texas Education Agency, they have received over 180 complaints of educators posting inappropriate content regarding Kirk. Commissioner of Education Mike Morris with the TEA, sending this statement to all superintendents, stated in part, while the exercise of free speech is a fundamental right we are all blessed to share, it does not give carte blanche authority to celebrate or sow violence against those that share different beliefs and perspectives. I reached out for an interview regarding specific guidelines that would qualify for a violation. Instead, they replied with an email saying they would recommend to suspend the educator certification to teach in the state.
And this drama we don't need right now, especially when our children are in so much need. Let's talk about special education needs. Let's talk about needs of children who don't have anything to eat at home.
Nancy Vera, president of the Corpus Christi American Federation of Teachers, doesn't agree with Morris.
It's nothing new. It's just that these folks, because of the political climate right now, are exacerbating this. And that's going to mean that more people are going to be aware and they're going to complain about anything and everything.
Flower Bluff and Corpus Christi ISD both denied my interview request, but both emphasized that educators are expected to uphold professional standards of conduct on social media at all times. If you're aware of any staff or educators posting inappropriate content online, you are suggested to report it on the TEA's Misconduct Reporting Portal. Reporting in Corpus Christi, I'm your neighborhood news reporter, Ana Conejo, Chris 6 News.
Coming up next week, you're going to meet a teacher who says she resigned over the post that she posted all about Charlie Kirk. Why was she fired? You'll get to hear what she had to say. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Are you worried about what cell phones are doing to your child? You know, with all the comics and video games that's on the phone? Well, maybe in luck. Here's John Stossel.
Are you worried about what these are doing to your kids? I am. Some people say cell phones are killing our kids, robbing them of their childhood.
Mental health is declining. Attention spans are declining.
Jonathan Haidt's book about how smartphones harm kids has been a bestseller for more than a year. People like Michelle Obama call him an expert.
We got an expert that actually knows something.
But wait, we adults always worry about new things. When I was a kid, cops raided pinball arcades saying these cause delinquency. They also attacked
comic books, a monumental problem confronting your children today.
Responsible for a substantial amount of juvenile delinquency and child crime.
I think there ought to be a law against them. Is the current worry about smartphones just another overblown panic? Before Haidt published his book, he invited other researchers to review it.
I actually was, at his request, a reviewer for his book.
Psychologist Chris Ferguson.
My advice to him was to not publish it, essentially, because it was full of errors and problems.
What kind of problems?
If you look at kids today, they're less violent, they smoke less, they use drugs less. All that happened during the social media smartphone age.
So why the worry about smartphones?
We're probably in the midst of another moral panic.
Why do you call it a moral panic?
They're the evil social media companies. They're the bad guys. I'm a good parent because I'm not letting my kid have a smartphone until they're 37.
Jonathan Haidt does say governments should prohibit kids from using social media. Not until they're 37, but until they're 16.
This is the one area where we need actually legislative help.
The kids will just buy fake IDs.
But right now, there is nothing. And as with alcohol laws, yeah, kids can still get an older brother to buy them beer. But does that mean we should get rid of minimum age laws and let every kid buy alcohol at every age?
Probably not, says Ferguson. But he reminds people that American experts once wanted similar limits on rock music.
Ozzy Osbourne got sued over, the idea that he had caused some kids to commit suicide.
The lyrics in these songs influenced my son to commit suicide.
This music needed to be regulated, tamed by the government.
We are raising our children on a massive diet of violence.
Al Gore's wife complained about
selling explicit sex and violence to younger and younger kids.
Congress proposed new laws. Dee Snider of Twisted Sister pushed back.
There is no authority who has the right, not myself, not the federal government, not some recording industry committee.
The irony is that as people began to try to censor rock music, suicides among youth at that time actually went up.
The next scare was video games.
Defender, Pac-Man, Asteroids, to critics, they are a menace.
Parents who buy some of those games may not realize just how much violence they're getting.
As usual, politicians rushed in.
One place parents want us to draw the line is with violence in video games.
It had virtually no impact. How aggressive they were, whether they engaged in bullying, it didn't make them
violence at the time was actually going down.
Absolutely, it was going down. It turns out that mass homicide perpetrators actually play fewer violent video games.
So maybe they were wrong about comic books, rock music, video games, but this time I suspect that Jonathan Haidt is right about smartphone addiction. I get hooked. It's just so interesting.
We adults are hooked too, but at least we made it through puberty.
Kids suffer more, he says, in many ways.
Sleep goes down. Time with friends goes down. Exercise goes down.
If there was an issue around smartphones and social media, we would expect to see a fairly, consistent international trend in things like teen suicide or diagnoses of depression and anxiety disorders. We actually don't see that.
In fact, this Lancet article points out that in Europe, as cell phone use increased, suicide rates dropped. Ferguson says if American kids are depressed, it might be because of what they're being taught.
Racism is everywhere. You can't get ahead if you're black or Latino. If you're white, then you're an oppressor. That sexism is everywhere. Why would you be happy?
More important, he says, is that most kids today are doing fine.
They're less violent, they smoke less, they use drugs less, they drink less, they stay in school more, they volunteer in their communities more. And we look for the bad news and only attribute the bad news to something like social media or smartphones, and we don't attribute any of the good news.
At least 11 states have moved to ban or restrict cell phone use in public school classrooms.
So far, Haidt's argument is winning. Some politicians want to ban social media for kids, and more schools are banning phones.
The bans may actually make things worse.
What's the cost of banning it in schools?
Unintended negative consequences. Are we suspending kids for their cell phone use? A lot of schools are. And that can cause real harm to the kids. People get convinced that they fixed a problem when they didn't. That's going to waste a lot of time rather than looking at what might actually work.
In the court of public opinion, he's winning, you're losing.
Yeah. Well, give it 15 years. Of course, we'll be panicking about something else.
Here at Stossel TV, we don't want you to panic. That's why we...
Everybody panics. Everybody panics because of what's going on. But now, do you see the problem here when it comes to, cell phones in our schools? I mean, that's what happens. Next time, we're going to look at the Department of Education. Here's what we're going to talk about next time. Cancel the Department of Education.
We will put an end to Joe...
Fails, and you pay for it again. And school choice competition, Family Tuesday Educate, upsetting. That's all next week. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Now we have planned for, the Monkowitz store on Saturday. We're going to have that for you next week. Before we get to our preview, here's our final one. Stop! You can't dig here. That's what people say. You can't dig. Here again is John Stossel.
Mines use toxic chemicals like cyanide,
and churn through millions of tons of rock.
Mining is a dirty business. It creates
Deep open pits and huge dams filled with hazardous waste.
And yet even President Biden said we need more mines in order to make
solar panels, wind turbines, and so much more.
All are made from minerals that come from mines.
We expect the demand for them to increase by 400 to 600%.
That's the reason years ago this man tried to open what he called Pebble Mine in this remote section of Alaska. Seems like a good place for a mine. So Pebble hired hundreds of people to conduct the scientific study required to ask for permission to open a mine. But before Pebble even got its application in, the EPA vetoed Pebble.
They decided to kill this project before any science had been done.
Why? Because environmentalists claim
Pebble Mine would be a catastrophic threat to the wildlife and people that depend on this fragile ecosystem.
That ad was made by the Natural Resources Defense Council. It's a rich environmental group that has cozy relations with EPA officials.
They're very close, aren't they? The
NRDC guys go to work for... They're sleeping with each other?
Figuratively.
I asked the NRDC spokesman about that.
Your people are working for the EPA now. And EPA people come to work for the NRDC, colluding with big liberal regulators.
NRDC is a source of expertise, and sometimes the government takes advantage of that.
Years later, a Republican administration removed the EPA's veto. That allowed the Army Corps of Engineers to study the mine, and they concluded it wouldn't result in long-term changes in the health of the fisheries. So is Pebble a bustling mine today? No.
The mine will not be built.
President Biden vetoed it again. I don't get it. He just said we need the minerals.
Pebble Mine is become the poster child that they want to stop. But it's not the only one.
Physicist Mark Mills writes about how environmental groups and regulators have killed new mines in America.
Why in the world would you put millions and millions, maybe billions of dollars at risk, spending those decades to get a permit, knowing there's a very good chance they'll just cancel a permit illegally, summarily? I have a pen. Boom.
It happens often.
The Biden administration dealt a death blow to Twin Metals' plans for a copper nickel mine.
How in the world do you build mines in America knowing that that's the landscape you have?
The new president may change that, but our piles of accumulated regulation will make that hard. America now ranks next to last in time it takes to develop a new mine.
You start applying for permits, you're going to be waiting not months, not years. The record shows decades.
And if a mine is approved, the Natural Resources Defense Council will run ads like this.
Imagine this natural paradise destroyed by a 2,000-foot gaping hole in the ground.
Yeah, it's a big hole. It's a tiny, infinitesimal pinprick in the landscape.
Flying over mines like Pebble, you see nothing but wilderness for miles.
What I was struck by is just the vastness of the territory and how tiny the footprint that we were disturbing.
And we need to disturb it a little.
We need metals and materials and minerals to build everything that exists to make society possible.
Roads, buildings, cell phones, medical equipment. It's kind of funny. The NRDC touts clean energy, saying it creates jobs.
We created 50,000 new jobs in this country, putting up wind turbines, solar panels, building the next generation of energy-efficient cars. This is where the future is.
We also need copper and gold.
Well, that's right, and we have to weigh those risks.
But they don't really weigh them. They oppose all American mines.
America doesn't need any more environmental disasters.
Even though clean energy needs the minerals.
Windmills, solar panels, and batteries require a massive increase.
There are some mines where NRDC says, great, go ahead.
Well, it's not up to us. It's not up to us to greenlight mines. But what
are there any you don't complain about?
Oh yeah, sure.
He said he'd send us some names, but the NRDC never did. And that was 9 years ago. We ask again this year. Again, no names.
Well, don't hold your breath. The mines that they implicitly support are in Africa, South America.
Implicitly, because they don't say that.
They don't say it. But the Green Movement has been perfectly happy at outsourcing mining for decades to disadvantaged countries where there are thousands of children in bare feet, working by hand with shovels, digging minerals out of the earth.
An army of children are at the heart of the mining production, wearing no shoes and in the most wretched conditions.
At least in America, there are child labor laws, advanced equipment that makes mining safer, and environmental rules. You think the environmentalists would want more mining in America?
To have a sane world, we should be doing a lot more of it. Not all of it, but not none of it.
America once led the world in producing minerals. Now we depend on other countries for 100% of many of them.
Not a good thing. Society can't exist without mines.
Thanks for watching.
And without mining, there wouldn't be any new jobs available. And without those jobs, no money. And without money, nobody can help pay the bills around here. Without those bills, we can't pay the bills, and we can't pay our mortgages and our water bills. That's the lesson to be learned here. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Coming up on Give Me a Break Saturday, our second look, coming up a second look Saturday, we're going to take a second look into daycare centers. Not just daycare centers, home daycare centers. We're going to take a second look at how you can make sure that your daycare operator or owner is being licensed. And what you can do if you could spot one. If you spot one that does not have a license. We're going to give you some tips. And along with them, we're going to show you some hidden camera footages from Diane Sawyer and Chris Hansen. And and the question is always asked, while you're at work, who's watching your kids? We're going to have the answer to that question coming up on Second Look Saturday. So with this in mind, that's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Friday going to Saturday. I had promised you Monaco and Whiskey on Saturday, but we're going to save that for next week. So coming up on Monday, look for Monica Lewinsky. Look for a special Give Me a Break Monday all about Monica Lewinsky in her own words. And we'll see you again for Second Look Saturday. Follow us here on YouTube and Give Me a Break. Stop bullying, speak up. Concentration, not strength. No jaywalking. Take care of yourself and each other. And always remember this, autism is not a disability, it's your superpower. Good night.